I'm Jon Schnitzer, and I'm the director and producer of Haunters, The Art of the Scare. We just had our world premiere at Fantastic Fest. Fantastic Fest is the most fun film festival of all time for genre fans. Basically, I've seen so many people that have the same shirts I have. Like I was wearing my Freddy shirt with the needle fingers, the Dare to Keep Kids Off of Drugs shirt, and I saw another guy with the same shirt, and we're just like, I've already made like 100 new friends. I just love Fantastic Fest, and the amount of love and appreciation we got at that screening, it was unbelievable. I still can't believe it. I spent the last 4 years making this movie, and it's a lot of time to put into something, and you get after a long time of really working on every little piece of it, you start to wonder how it's going to play in a theater. And I hoped it was going to, like, they're going to laugh at this, and after they laugh at this for a while, we'll bring this in, and they're going to get a little shocked, maybe disturbed. Oh, now we'll do this. But to be in the theater, Evram introduced the film, so Evram runs the festival. And when he introduced my film, I'm starting to get a little bit choked up, because he's talking about me, and he's talking about my film the way that my 8-year-old self on the playground at school would be talking about, like, you haven't seen Nightmare on Elm Street? It's the greatest movie ever! And I'd act it out, talk about how great it is, because I really wanted to win people over, because it's my favorite film, and Wes Craven was my favorite director, and I want you to love these guys. And John Carpenter, what, you've never seen a John Carpenter film? I would just go nuts. And here's this guy who's running one of the coolest festivals ever, talking about me that way and talking about my film that way, and then he wanted me to say a few words, and I was like, don't cry. No one wants to start watching your movie if you're just like, I'm so verklempt. But I had to thank my wife, because who she's put up with. I've missed all my birthdays for the last 4 years. We haven't gone on a vacation in 4.5 years. It's been all haunters all the time. There's like that section in the movie where we explore the haunt widows, the spouses who are left out during the season, and my wife became a haunt widow during a lot of this process. It's hard to think about other things when you're working on every aspect of a documentary. You're always thinking about it. So to be in the theater, and the movie's starting, and to be sitting with my wife, and for Shar to be there with her husband, and the movie starts, and I was so nervous, but then after it had gone on for like 15-20 minutes, it just felt like, oh my god, they're really loving this movie. And I'd screened 15 minutes before to people, but that's it. Once we got past to the new stuff too, and people were really reacting, they're laughing where they're supposed to laugh, they're gasping where they're supposed to be shocked and surprised. When the emotional parts are happening, people are getting emotional. Shar started crying. I was getting emotional. I'm getting emotional thinking about it. It really was like the greatest moment of my life. That was it. I gotta tell you, I've never felt this is my first feature film. And I've waited so long to do a feature film because I worship movies. I'm obsessed with my favorite directors and my favorite documentaries, and I wanted to make something really special, and I didn't want to make something where I'm going to have to make an excuse, or we didn't have sound in the budget, so we couldn't. I wanted to make sure whatever I did, that it could hopefully be as good as the movies that I love. And that was the whole goal of it. And just the people who've been coming up to us, there was a line that formed to hug Shar, and people were getting really emotional talking to Shar and how much they just fell in love with her. This is really, this whole experience of Fantastic Fest, I'm just blown away. I can't believe it. My birthday is in October, so every year, growing up, I always went to haunted houses for Halloween. That was like my big thing. I'm actually in the movie for a second. This is when Donald talked about doing the haunted house in 6th grade at La Madera for the fall carnival, and showed the pictures of him as the army guy. I was the picture of the Freddy kid, because I met Donald doing a haunted house at La Madera in the 6th grade. We were the last room, and we scared kids so bad. I would scare them, but they'd laugh immediately after because I would do something funny as Freddy. And then Donald would jump up and scare people so bad they broke through the cardboard walls to get away from him. And I know his story. And I know what his haunted house did that transformed his family. And it's an emotional story. But there's also kind of a funny part of the story with his wife. Everyone loves his haunted house, but his wife is like, this is your last year. And I thought, well, this is a great story, because when you first look at Donald, he looks like the Terminator, and you don't realize he's just a giant teddy bear. He's a real sweetheart. And if we can introduce you to someone like that, and if you're not into haunted houses or Halloween, because you're always like, those people are crazy, but then you see someone like Donald and you get to learn his story, by the end, like, you want to get some of the people that are in this movie, you want to give them a hug. I wanted to go deeper into the subculture of Halloween than anyone's ever done before, ever. And now the thing I was noticing is there's just as many subgenres of haunts as there are subgenres of horror. I mean, horror films go from everything from horror comedy to torture porn. And now so do the haunted houses. And I wanted to make sure we represented everything in the spectrum so that you can actually have the full range of emotions. That way we can explore like the horror and the heart. And we can have those emotional moments, and we can have the laugh out loud moments and the super cool Halloween stuff. But then we can also be really shocked at how extreme some of the extreme haunts are going. McCamey Manor is, even talking about McCamey Manor is controversial. I mean, McCamey Manor is the most controversial full contact extreme haunt of all time. That's it. So if I were to tell you there's something that exists that is the most extreme, it's so controversial that there are people who are sending this person death threats all the time. Okay, well, if that exists and it's a part of the haunt world, we can't leave that out. Because how you react to McCamey Manor tells you how you react to the entire haunt world. I mean, when I was showing cuts of the movie where McCamey Manor wasn't in the movie, it was really interesting because people who aren't into Halloween and the haunted houses looked at the traditional haunters and said, what's wrong with these people? They're crazy. When I brought in the extreme haunts, it was really fascinating when you put the world into context. When you put the world into context, now all of a sudden, the traditional haunts, you can actually see the heart rise to the surface, like, oh, how sweet they are. You actually can see someone with a chainsaw coming after someone, but then realize, he just loves scaring people. We see that already. We're horror fans. We're haunt fans. But we also know people that don't quite get it. And we need to open up the world. The best way you understand a topic is when you've had a debate about it and had an argument about it. And when you get to have a discussion, an argument, you get to know more about yourself too. And I'm looking at McCamey Manor, I saw his videos, I'm like, there's no way I would go through that. Who's going through that? Why would they go through that? And the more I had questions, the more I was like really fascinated, not just by the people who are going through it, but fascinated with the person who's creating this, who is spending all their time, not just creating this experience, but making these videos, making these movies. Who's doing that and why are they doing it? I wanted to get to know that person. And I had a lot of people that do haunts that even didn't want to be in the movie anymore because he was in it. I started getting death threats. I started getting phone calls at 3 a.m. I started getting some really threatening emails from people that was really scary. I don't even know if we should even include that part. Honestly, I don't want them to happen again. Like, I've got a lot of really creepy, it's really weird. And I get it. I get people are really upset about what his haunt is. And I think people think I'm trying to glorify it. or give it a platform that it doesn't already have. Some of his videos have millions of views. Some of his videos have millions of views. Whenever I bring up that I'm doing this movie, and I'll say, well, I have the most extreme haunt of all time, it's always surprising when someone says, well, you don't have the most extreme, that's McCamey Manor. You're thinking about Blackout. And I was like, this is someone who doesn't even go to haunted houses, but they knew all about it. They followed the videos. So I wanted to bring it in, and I'm really proud. What I'm most proud of it with this movie is that we don't have any voiceover narration. I'm not holding your hand telling you how to feel. What I'm trying to do is capture these people as they are. I believe I have captured Russ exactly how he is. Some of those interviews with Russ went on for 7-8 hours. I would let the camera roll, we'd talk for 8 hours until we could get, he could stop selling his haunt and start being Russ. And that's when I started finding out stories about growing up and stories about what he's doing. Look, I'm trying to make sure that there's at least one moment where you get to empathize with every single person in the movie and see things from their point of view. You can disagree all you want, that's fine. But the second we don't look at each other as human beings and we don't try to empathize and try to understand the other person's perspective, that's what we have in the world today right now. A bunch of people saying, I'm not listening, I'm not listening, I'm not listening. It doesn't exist. And if we cut McCamey out of this movie, it would have a very different feel to it. And I want the whole spectrum. When I go through a haunted house, there's always at least one part that kind of shocks me. If it's a good haunt does what? You scream, you laugh, something disgusts you. Well, even traditional haunts, they have a bathroom scene where something sprays out of the toilet and it stinks and it's gross. And you're like, why would you put that in the haunt? It would have been great without that, but why did you do it? Why did you do it? And then the next thing makes you laugh. By the time you leave, you feel so good. And you feel strangely inspired and really creative because of all that creative energy and storytelling you just went through. And I wanted the movie to feel the way it feels when you go through a haunt. And of course, because McCamey's in there, the shocking parts are genuinely shocking and very disturbing. But some of the people who have watched this, you'd be surprised. There are people who, after they watch it, they want to burn McCamey Manor down, but there are people after they watch it that want to go through it. There were people who worked on this movie that were begging to go through it. They wanted to go through it. So, it's sometimes we all project things on something and go, well, no one would be into that. There are thousands and thousands of people who are. Our concern is the safe word. If you don't give people a way of getting out, that's the entire debate. That's what the big debate's over. But it's fascinating because you get to see Russ holding the camera and filming. I filmed him while he was filming them. So in that one scene in the third act, when we split screen and show him holding the camera and what he's doing and what he's saying behind the camera, to me that was watching him and filming him was fascinating because watching his videos, I was always wondering who's behind the camera, how are they doing this? And I feel like when the third act, hopefully that was a very intense moment for you. And that music in the third, for that part, was by Empty Set. Have you heard of Empty Set before? It's one of my favorite bands. And it's a song called Fragment off of the album Recur. And to me that song sounds and feels like a panic attack. And I wanted that's the feeling of McCamey Manor. It is like a prolonged panic attack. I panicked when I was there filming. And when you have this that's kicking in, and it's kicking in while you're seeing it happen, I want you to feel what it feels like to be standing there. And I know what that feels like because I was holding the camera and my heart was racing at times. And I had to run out several times. There was a time where I stopped the whole thing. Christina, who flew in from Kuwait, she went into shock. I put the camera down, picked her up, and took her into the house. And I didn't even think about it. I just what's happening? And 30 minutes later, she snaps out of it. She goes, why am I not in the haunt anymore? I said, because you went into shock. She goes, I flew 19 hours for this, put me back in there. And she's yelling at Russ. He's like, how you doing there, baby girl? And she's like, screw you, put me in the haunt. 4 more hours she went. And afterwards, she was like, thank you so much. I loved it. She did it 3 more times. She went back to do it 3 more times. I actually have one guy that went through McKamey Manor that loved it the whole time. Smile on his face the entire time. I couldn't put it in the movie because it would have sucked the air out of everyone else. It was for him. He said, what do we do if we, what about if we shave half your hair off right now? He's like, it'll be strange at work tomorrow. And then they did it to him and he's like, oh. it's so funny. And the bonus features were all things that I had in the movie, but I had to cut it out. They were always great moments, but no matter how good the moment was, the movie slowed down a little bit. And I love great documentaries, and I didn't want my documentary to feel like a documentary. I wanted to feel like a movie, like a runaway train. The second the logo kicks on, boom, you're in for a ride. And some of my favorite documentary filmmakers, Rodney Asher, who did Room 237 and The Nightmare, and James Swirsky, who did Indie Game the movie, I reached out to them on Twitter and online. They got back to me and they mentored me. And they helped me out. That's why I put their name in the credits, you know. A special thanks to my mentors. You know, I'm just so appreciative. When you have a passion project that you're truly, genuinely, not just excited about, but you're willing to sacrifice your time, your energy, and everything in your life, and you go all in on something, that does inspire other people to help out. And if you have a project that you want to work on, that you've been thinking about over time, whether it's a haunted house or a maze or an escape room or a film, if you're willing to give your heart for it and you're willing to be really good to the people around you and treat them like the amazing heroes that they are, because if they're taking the time to help you, they're saving your butt. It's the greatest experience of a lifetime. I gotta say, I cannot tell you enough. I cannot get over. I mean, from every aspect, every single person, I really just want to go down the list of the credits and tell you why I love every single person that was involved. There's just too many people to thank. You know, that's why the credits are there. But I don't know, man. I'm really excited, and I'm excited for all the other showings of this too. We have 2 more showings now. So we got tonight at midnight, which is like, because we got a buzzworthy screening. People demanded another screening. We're also going to be at Alamo Drafthouse in Brooklyn, San Francisco, Denver, Colorado. We're going to be in Beyond Fest October 3rd at the Egyptian Theater, and Donald is building a haunted house on the red carpet. Yeah, I know. I'm really excited for that. This is just, what a ride. And then the special features come out, and you get to explore way more of Delusion, and you get to watch John Braver directing during a show. You get to see Haunted Overload, the giant skulls. You get in their story, and that's an emotional story. John Murdy from Universal Studios Halloween Horror Nights, you get so much of what inspired him, and the story about his grandmother, who really inspired him to scare people, because that was her favorite thing to do. And pictures of his first haunted house. Also, we have Slash from Guns N' Roses in the bonus features. It felt like I was crowbarring him in the movie, and in the bonus features, it's perfect, and he's gushing over John Murdy. It's awesome. I'm really proud of the movie. You know, I'm so proud of the movie, and I'm so proud and I'm so honored all the different people that I got to work on this movie, from the editors to directors of photography who couldn't be there the whole time. They were there, and then they would teach me how to use the camera. To the musicians. I mean, we have the craziest soundtrack. Jonathan Snipes, the composer of Room 237 and The Nightmare, he scored the McKamey Manor theme. He also did several songs throughout. Dead Man's Bones, Zach Shields and Ryan Gosling's group, the Haunted House group from 2009. We got 2 songs from him. Alexander Burke, who's worked with David Lynch, Fiona Apple, Save Ferris, and he also, so Alexander Burke and Neil Baldock. Neil Baldock, who's worked with Radiohead, Wilco, and Kanye West. The 2 of them teamed up to do like 6 songs throughout the movie. And I'm just been in all the Kickstarter backers who believed in it from the start, and who saw like a 4-minute trailer that had a ton of sound problems and a bunch of mistakes, but they could see the passion and the enthusiasm that was there, and they got behind the project too. I mean, this is a movie that was made for under $100,000. This is a tight budget, and this is a passion project for me. And I did put everything I have in my life into this project, and I really didn't want to stop until I felt like this is what I can do. This is the best I can unleash.